To all of us, someone whom I suspect needs no introduction, and that is Ched Myers. We are very happy to have Ched with us this weekend. He is a friend of so many of us and an inspiration to our movement for justice and peace and for a beautiful whole economy and ecology. Ched introduces himself, as always, as a fifth-generation Californian. And I have known him for many years and have always appreciated his attention to rootedness, to place, to the story out of which his own story has emerged. He lives in a small intentional community north of Los Angeles and has worked for many years with many different justice and peace organizations, including the American Friends Service Committee, the Pacific Concerns Resource Center, the Pacific Life Community, and others. Ched is now a vital part of the Bartimaeus Cooperative Ministries. He has served on the faculty of many different institutions, including the Memphis Theological Seminary, the Fuller Theological Seminary, the Claremont School of Theology, and he's lectured at many other seminaries and universities and schools of theology. Ched is an author. I hope all of you have read his classic book, Binding the Strong Man on the Gospel of Mark. Its 20th anniversary edition was republished this year by Orbis, and it is a wonderful, new but still the same great biblical exegesis of the Gospel of Mark. Ched's newest book, which he wrote with Elaine Enns, his wife and partner, is Ambassadors of Reconciliation, and I urge all of you to read that. I had the great gift of working with Ched on a follow-up to the Binding the Strong Man several years ago called Say to This Mountain, and enjoyed very much the process of working with a team to try to open up and understand the very deep exegesis that Ched had brought to the Gospel of Mark already by that time. Ched is engaged in an ongoing way in what he calls theological animation, biblical studies. He is a premier thinker in terms of the political reading of the gospel of scriptures, and does it with great energy and creativity. He is an activist, a writer, a community builder, a popular educator. He, in every occasion that I have heard Ched speak to a group, he has completely engaged the group, not only inspiring, but also pulling everyone into the process of thinking together. So we are blessed this morning and this weekend to have Ched Myers with us. Thank you, Ched, for coming. Welcome.
Thank you, Marie. Thanks, everybody, for coming out this morning. Can everybody hear okay? And is the lighting, everyone can see the wall all right? Great. Well, I'm mindful of the great opportunity and the honor to help frame the conversation over the next 36 hours. I appreciate the fact that with here inside the Beltway with all the distinguished luminaries and policy wonks and pundits, advocates, organizers, that the conveners thought it might be useful to pluck up a Californian out of our intensive spring organic vegetable planting with dirt still under the fingernails to come join you. It's really my privilege to be with you, and I hope these thoughts will edify and stimulate this mix. So I'm going to jump right into it, and this will be broad, hopefully not too dense, as a way of plotting out some points of conversation. In the fall of 2003, the journal Business Ethics had a thoughtful opinion piece by progressive journalist William Ryder. In a preview of his book, The Soul of Capitalism, Opening Paths to a Moral Economy, Ryder wrote, "Most Americans, I'm convinced, have a sense that something is wrong in the contours of our supposed prosperity. The hunger is unnamed and seems part of what the system demands. The only remedy, we're told, is more. More output, more cost savings, more sacrifices to achieve them. The operating principles of capitalism," he said, "have become dangerously obsolete. The house of economics is due for major renovation, if not a complete teardown." The church can feel free to say amen if you feel it. Americans have been deeply educated and angered by the boom and bust stock market, which revealed a lot about how Wall Street manages their money. The injured public is still smoldering with an anger that could be mobilized for a more aggressive era of reform. I think that's our hope here today. Above all, Ryder said, rather astonishingly, we need a new narrative of American capitalism. The economy of more has turned upon itself, tearing the social fabric, weakening family and community life, piling up discontents alongside the growing plenty. We need a new story. As it presently functions, capitalism encourages human pathologies, embodying irresponsibility as a central requirement in its operating routines. But a new narrative beyond more is beginning to emerge organically. Central to this story is the fact that people themselves can make change, despite the inertia of government and overbearing power of established economic interests. Pioneers in many sectors are showing the way to dismantle or re-engineer the status quo. Well, I don't know about you, but I think Ryder's analysis was fairly prescient and on the mark. And I think the current crisis of our financial markets is serving only to deepen both of the trends that he identified. That is, on the one hand, disillusionment and anxiety are deepening, and on the other hand, creative alternatives are proliferating. This gathering, therefore, I think is an important reflection of both trends, and I commend the Mary Knoll Office for Global Concerns for convening it. You, friends, are the pioneers that Ryder talks about, who are building capacity for the movement to dismantle or re-engineer the economic status quo. We gather in the knowledge that just as the experience of the Jubilee 2000 movement showed, we are more than the sum of our parts if we decide to organize, educate, and collaborate strategically. 15 years ago, no one imagined that a faith-animated popular movement would be able to tackle the complex issues of the global debt crisis. But what grew out of conversations that were organized just like this weekend, organized by people like Marie, what grew out of that was one of the most significant campaigns for economic justice in the last quarter century, and many people in this room were intimately involved with those movements. We might just take a little poll here. How many of you were directly or indirectly involved in the Jubilee, some form of the Jubilee, and still are, of course. It's an ongoing movement, right? So I think we need to take inspiration from that legacy. At the same time, none of us then could have imagined that the crisis of structural indebtedness that we were addressing internationally would also bring the domestic economy to its knees in 2008. So the tasks we are facing are truly daunting. Depression historian Robert McIlvaine wrote recently that the